folks, welcome back to another segment of Throat Punch Lunch. I am excited for the segments that we have lined up for you today. Some of these contributors had me laughing out loud, literally LOLs, and others were just very in-depth, thoughtful segments about the respective game that they were talking about or segment of our hobby that they were talking about. So this is a great episode. I don't mean to hype it up too much, but I really enjoyed watching all the segments, so I hope that you do too. So without further ado, and let's keep chivalry alive, ladies first.
Hi everybody, Kat Jackson here with CK Studios, bringing you another episode of the Hobby Hangout on Throat Punch Lunch. This week I want to take you on a little journey of getting ready to get some actual paint down on our minis. We're going to be talking about preparing our miniatures so that they're ready to be painted. We have a kind of a common set of tools that no matter what type of game you're actually playing, what type of models you're actually dealing with, they're going to be really common to almost every situation. We're talking about nippers, hobby knives, a good toothbrush, and different types of files. We have both metal and we have emery boards, and then our glues. And there's different kinds of glues out on the market. Different people will tell you that they totally go with one type of glue and will use no other. I'm going to tell you that quite often simply when you're dealing with plastics, your common household super glue will do you just fine. Some of the models that we have that we talk about with our skirmish games and some of our Ameritrash games out there are some of the pre-made fully one-pieced cast models, and that means they simply come with no preparation needed for taking them down off of a sprue and gluing them together. They're going to be based already, but quite often they're also going to have some seam issues that if you were to actually start painting on them, you're going to see the seams where the cast or the molding was in place. Some of our other models, like things for Kingdom Death, another fantastic board game out there on the market, has a bunch of models, comes with a ton of sprues. You've got to do a lot of little things to get these things built, and it takes a little more effort to get them prepped out. So one of the things we look at is actually taking the time to investigate the model and look for marks along the model where the molds have come together and there's actual seam lines that we take our hobby knife to, and we actually apply very gently, always working away from your hand, and you're going to simply scrape off a little bit of that mold line. Very simple to do. Then we take and grab our files, whichever one you're comfortable with, and you're going to smooth out anything that's been left behind on those. When we're dealing a little bit more with models that have to be built and put together, these seem to be the type that have a little more requirement and time spent prepping them out, because we're actually going to be looking for not only the seam lines, but where do we connect our actual pieces and how do they fit together. So we spend a little bit of time before we actually glue fitting things together. Take a look at how they fit. Is this exactly like the picture on the box? If there are any kind of tutorials out on the internet for building certain types of games, like Kingdom Death has a couple of really great tutorials for all the pieces, and they'll actually show you guides on how to get them put together. Take the time to look at those, because there's nothing that's more aggravating than gluing two pieces of plastic together only to find that if you go to put another piece on, you can no longer fit it because one thing's in the way. So part of prepping it out is actually taking the time to see where all the little pieces go together, doing kind of a pre-fit, and then making sure you're taking the time to actually inspect the models. See if there's any flashing on them. See if there's, what we find commonly are the insides of the legs, the outsides of the legs, sometimes across the top of the heads, the hair, there'll be a line going straight across where the mold seams have met. And then sometimes when we're kind of in a hurry and trying to get things done, we'll forget one of our key parts that we really need to do before we set paint or primer to a model, and that's going to be taking the time to clean them. So whether or not it's a full mold poured piece like the Arcadia Quest from Cool Mini or not, or if you're dealing with something like Wrath of Kings from Cool Mini or not, where you have pieces you've glued together and you've built these models, you're going to have to take the time to actually wash them. They are all kind of treated with a releasing agent, so when they pull them out of the molds, the actual pieces sometimes are left with a little bit of residue, and that can get in the way of primer sticking to the model, and if you can't get it primed, you can't get the plastic paints to stick to the plastic. So what we use is a good toothbrush, and you're simply going to get in there with common household dishwashing soap. Clean them down in warm water, not hot. You don't want to bend up the models. Warm water, a little bit of that. Let them sit out and air dry for a couple hours before you commit to actually applying any kind of primer. So those are some tips on prepping out your models. Next time around, we're probably going to get into actually talking about priming our models so we can move forward with getting into some paint. So thanks so much for watching. Again, this is Kat Jackson with the Hobby Hangout. Come paint with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Jedi Mind Games. My name's Kodai. So today I'm going to be going over how I like to fly my list. So we're going to get to the table today, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for this one, and I'm going to teach you some pointers for the other ones as well. Alright, with that, let's get to the table. Here we are at the table, so let me give you some pointers on how I like to fly the Lambda. Now, in competitive X-Wing, you always have to line up at range 1 on your side of the field. So this is a representation of sort of how this would be. And let's say my opponent lines up over here. Obviously, that's a lot further back, but this is some of their ships that they had brought, right? So the Lambda's dial is definitely not the best, and I'll put this on the screen. It has some 1 straights and slights, and then it has some 2 maneuvers, and the 2 hard is red, and the 3 straight is white, and it has 2 red slights on 3, and it has a 0 stop, which is red. So this thing's not moving very fast. It's not very maneuverable, but we can make it maneuverable enough in the very beginning of the game. So what I like to do is line up the shuttle next to the Wampa so I can purposely bump the ships together. So the Lambda is going to be moving first, and then the Wampa is going to be moving next, because the pilot skill of 2, then 4. Let's pretend that this is the asteroid placement, and my opponent picked that side. I want to fly it into a lane that's open, and let's say I created this lane, or my opponent did, through asteroid placement. So this is the general direction I want to fly. Now I could just zoom straight through. I could try and do 1 slice. You know, I could just set up my Lambda here, but I'm going to wait for my opponent to come closer to me, because I don't want this ship to be out in the middle of the board during turn 3 or 4. That's not very good. So I want my ship to kind of be here-ish, somewhere around here, so I can line up my shots a little bit better and continue down this lane. So how I like to do that is I like to do a 1 straight with the Lambda. So a 1 straight is this smaller template, but I'm just going to use this to line it up. And I'm going to move it like that. So it bumped. I get no actions. That's fine. Now let's say I revealed for the TIE Fighter a 1 hard turn, because that's the slowest maneuver they have. So I'm going to line that up, and I'm going to execute that move like that. So then on the next turn, I want to move the Lambda a 1 slight to the right. So now I'm going to take my template, and I'm going to line it up like this. And as you can see, I'm going to bump again, but I'm going to be at an angle, which is exactly what I want. So I'm not going to fully do this, but it's going to be something like this, right? Going to look something like that, and I'm still on the mat, which is good. You're going to have to practice that. You're going to figure out what's the best angle to do this. It just comes with time. So then Wampa will take another move, and I'll normally do another hard turn like that. And if there's a rock right there, I'm probably going to take the barrel roll action out of the way like that. So now what I want to do on the Lambda is I could either keep going straight, depending on my opponent's position. Let's say they really moved aggressively forward, then I could try and meet them and move forward as well. Or I could just simply take the 0 stop maneuver, and just wait for more information on the battlefield. Let's say I take a right slight again. So we're going to, actually I'm going to make that a 1 straight. 1 straight looks good. It's still down the line. And the 1 straight, I end up somewhere around here. And then Wampa's going to go, he'll go somewhere probably this way to go down, to follow the lane with the lambda. So now your shots are going to be more lined up than they were. So you're going to have more time to maneuver and see the battlefield, in my opinion. Even though it's pilot skill 2, you can still see a lot of information because the way you move it slowly in the beginning of the game. Now the next turn would probably be a 1 slight or another 1 straight, depending on where they're going. So I'll just do another 1 straight, and with that, I'm going to have more shots lined up than usual. I'm going to have more shots lined up. So that's one way to do it, and they'll be somewhere around here probably. So you're going to get to do a shot right here. That's great. And what's great is if you didn't stress yourself out, the next turn of movement, you can do a 0. So you can stop, because you can either try and move and try and get into more position, or they might try and flank you on different sides depending on what they do. But that's just a game call right in the moment. So you could just do a 0 stop, and then they might just come short of you like that, and then you'll get some shots on them like that. All right, so those are some of the tricks for the lambda. And for Wampa, I want to stay at range 3 for the most part, because his ability triggers off range 3. So I'm going to be rolling 2 dice on this shot, but I'm going to be using Emperor Palpatine to change this to a crit anyways. So I want to stay kind of as far away as possible as I want to with Wampa. Very similar to the Inquisitor, I want to stay at range 3, and I'm going to be getting 3 dice to shoot with because of the Inquisitor's ability. And that's how I like to fly my list. I hope you guys learned a little something and how to line up your shots properly, especially with the Lambda, to get some more use out of it rather than just being a Palpmobile. Alright, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, please be sure to put them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. And with that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your lunch. Take care.
Friends and family are coming over for game day. You're going to be spending hours playing a rich thematic game. Well, those friends and family are going to start feeling a little peckish. So when it's time to put out a spread, why not include some food items that will go along with the theme of the game? Let's talk about some thematic taste tips in this installment of Face Up, Center of the Table. What do you mean I can't use this for an intro? Who else does this? Never heard of that guy. Here in the South, when guests come in your home, there better be some food and drink. Otherwise, they're going to get hungry and feel like they could eat the south end of a northbound polecat. Before we get too far into this, Face Up Center of the Table does not condone eating food while playing a board game and will not be held liable for any damage to your game that may be caused by liquids, grease, barbecue sauce, powdered sugar, and dust that includes but not limited to Dorito and Cheeto. So when writing out your grocery list, keep in mind what games you'll be playing. Those don't have to be hard to make recipes or really bizarre items. For example, if you're playing a fantasy or medieval themed game, serve drinks in goblets and have some chicken wings or turkey legs. Yes, I do know they ate turkey legs back then because I saw it on TV. If you're playing a sci-fi game, you don't have to buy a lot of dehydrated food. Instead, you could get things like dried fruit, some beef jerky. Hey, what about a moon pie? Now that doesn't make any sense, but for your drink, you must have Tang. You know, Tang? Tang? What do you mean they don't know about Tang? Show the commercial.
With the success of the recent Apollo space flights, man has been brought another step closer to the moon. Aboard these manned Apollo flights, 3 astronauts, and with them, Tang. Tang, the energy breakfast drink with rich natural flavor and more vitamin C than orange juice.
Okay, so I'm old. Here's something fun we did for our Dead of Winter game night. However, this could be done with any horror zombie themed game. We made homemade pulled barbecue pork, then stuffed it inside of a plastic skeleton. Guests had to pull the pork out of the rib cage if they wanted to eat. Sure, it looked a little gory, but tasted delicious and fit the game night perfectly. However, here is something that is requested every game night when we host at our house: the chocolate trifle. Granted, this doesn't really fit any particular theme, but guests don't care. They just want some good dessert, and it's so easy to make. First, you need your family-size box of your favorite brownie mix, 2 packages of chocolate instant Jell-O pudding, 2 8-ounce containers of Cool Whip, and 12 fun-sized Butterfinger or your favorite candy bar. You bake your brownies according to package directions and let them cool for 30 minutes. Then you'll take half your brownies and make a layer in the bottom of your trifle dish, followed by 1 box of chocolate pudding, followed by 1 container of Cool Whip, half of your crushed candy bar, and then repeat that process again. So I need some more food ideas. Do you have any food suggestions for thematic games? Share them in the comments. Yes, Mr. Vassal, I promise I'll never do that bit with pouring milk over the meeples again, nor wear funny hats, nor use a gavel, nor, wait a minute, what was that one? Oh, no, hold on just a second, okay? Hey guys, scrap the component drop. Man, guys, shut the door. Wait, what? I can't say that either?
Hey everyone, welcome to Countercharge, and I am coming to you from Recess in North Olmsted, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland. If you're ever in town, come check it out. It's an absolutely awesome store. But tonight we're here to talk about the brand new Games Workshop paint rack. That's right. I mean, if you're a beginning gamer, this is a great place to go because Games Workshop, hey, the paints are everywhere and there's a lot of them. But I'm not going to take up this entire segment. We're going to talk to the owner of Recess, Jim Grasso. So Jim, why don't you come over here?
Hello,
say
everyone.
Hi to the Throw Punch Lunch audience. And so, Jim, let's talk a little bit about this paint rack here. So, Games Workshop, it's twice as wide now as it was, and there's so much more stuff. So, if you're a beginning gamer, this is a very friendly place to go. Could you point out some of the features if you're coming into the rack here?
Well, if you're coming into the rack, the first thing you want is a starter paint set. This is good for any army, any starting thing. It has everything that you want, nice selection of colors, a paintbrush, a clipper to get it off the sprue, and some glue. Definitely need some glue. GW's paint rack is amazing. It's double wide now. It goes from the floor all the way up as high as you can see here, and it has everything from air paints to specialty texture paints to every kind of brush that you would ever need to primers and sealers after the fact and all kinds of different sprays for your big armies.
That's right, and the one thing Games Workshop has is a lot of colors. And if you noticed here, we're double wide and we've got a lot of different colors, you know, even the pastels, and they've got the edge paints, and they also have the brushes over here, a nice brush selection. And like Jim mentioned, you also even got the spray primers. So it's really cool place for you to start out. And the reason why I'm showing it to you here today is so when you come into the store and you see this fantastic paint rack, you have a little bit of familiarity with it so you can come in and browse around a little bit. So, and the next time we talk to you here on Throw Punch Lunch, live from Recess, we're going to be talking about how you approach your local game shop owner and try to get that very valuable advice you need to get started painting.
Hi, it's the Board Game Renegade here, and welcome to another Hello Is It theme you're looking for. Now, today I'm going to be talking about Magic the Gathering. Now, Magic the Gathering is a collectible card game that came out 20-something years ago that I believe is one of the most influential card games, and if not one of the most influential games of all time. You may not like Magic the Gathering, however, there is no denying that it changed the landscape of card games forever and also of board games. Now, I don't play Magic the Gathering card game anymore because of the collectible nature of it, and I don't compete in tournaments or anything. It was always casual for me. However, I do play Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planeswalkers, which is a board game version of Magic the Gathering. So what is the theme of Magic the Gathering? Watch the video to find out. The multiverse is full of unlimited planes of existence, and although most of us live and die without knowing this fact, there are a select few that are born with a special ability, a special spark, and if this spark ignites, they become very powerful mages that are able to travel between planes. They are known as Planeswalkers. There is the powerful Gideon that wouldn't hesitate to jump headfirst into combat. There is Jace, who messes with the mind by using illusion and telepathy magic. Liliana the necromancer that reanimates the dead, Chandra that wields the power of pyromancy, and Nisa the tree-hugging, nature-loving elf. For some reason, planeswalkers are very territorial, and when they cross paths, they battle each other, and they'll stop at nothing until they prove that they are the most powerful planeswalker in existence. To try to destroy each other, the planeswalkers use mana to summon powerful creatures to aid them in battle. The creatures have different abilities and fighting styles, such as ranged attacks. Ow, that hurt! Brute strength. The ability to move through other creatures and planeswalkers. The ability to exchange spaces with their planeswalker. Some of them can make the enemies near them weaker. I feel weak. And others could come back from the dead. Some are extremely powerful. Get out of my way! While some stun their opponents when they are summoned. I can't move. Neither can I! Some can attack as soon as you're summoned. And some can fly. Plus, each of the planeswalkers has a variety of spells and enchantments to use against their opponents. And the planeswalkers and creatures use anything at their disposal to defeat their opponents. And once there is only one planeswalker or one team of planeswalkers remaining, those planeswalkers are the winner. Yay, we did it, we won! Woohoo! What in the world is that? Oh no! So that is Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planeswalkers, and that is the theme of Magic. And that theme is done quite a bit now. Mage versus mage, summoning creatures and casting spells to try to defeat each other. It is done quite a bit. What is your favorite magician versus magician game? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. And until next time... No, wait. Somebody in the last video said that until next time is overused. So I'm not going to use that one. I'm just going to say peace.
Hey folks, welcome back to another segment of the Canvas here on Throat Punch Lunch. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a different kind of segment of the Canvas because there isn't going to be any painting involved. But as I've said in the past, it doesn't have to be about painting. It can be about any aspect of our hobby that is enriching or helping the lives of those that are taking part in this hobby of ours. So without further ado, let's take a look at this story from Jason Vicente. On our most recent trip to Connecticut, I was able to meet Jason Vicente, who lives with his family in Avon, Connecticut. Jason has been a gamer most of his life and enjoys playing many different kinds of games with his family, and he also enjoys playing the piano. But on August 11th, 2016, all of Jason's worst fears began to creep in. The doctors told him that he had endured 2 small strokes in the back of his brain and 1 mild showering stroke across both halves of his frontal lobe. Well, immediately Debbie brought in some board games for her own assessment. Math was extremely hard for Jason now, as well as thinking a few moves ahead and understanding complicated rule sets. But worse than that, his 40 years of musical knowledge was all gone. Well, Jason has since returned home, and he and his family are rigorously working to regain as much of his cognitive ability as they can with a healthy diet, lots of rest, exercise, and yes, playing board games. As I was talking to Jason and Debbie at the Portal in Manchester, Connecticut, they were recounting to me about how the neurologists and the surgeons were so impressed with the progress that he was making while he was still in the hospital simply by playing and utilizing board games. So that could be somewhat of a support to the idea that, hey, board games are just what the doctor ordered. So hey, remember, I want to hear from you people. I like to showcase you guys, your stories on the canvas, and if you would be interested in doing that, please email me right here, and we will get everything set up for you. I'll do my best to contact you and get everything working. So that is it for the canvas. See you on the flip side.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Roy Candy from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Roll with the Punches. This week we're going to be talking all about all sorts of crazy event cards that happen in games. We're going to take a look at a few different games that utilize random events and things that pop up to increase the theme of the game and change up the intensity that players feel when they draw those cards and good or bad things happen. So let's take a look. At the beginning of Eldritch Horror, the players seed the Mythos deck with specific Mythos cards depending on the Great Old One. There are rumors and things that put clues out on the board, and then also ones that spawn gates. There are all sorts of different types of event Mythos cards in Eldritch Horror, so there's a huge variety each time you play the game. There are also specific Mythos cards that are rumors that stick around on the board and can do all sorts of different things, including summoning giant epic monsters. There's a different difficulties you can set the game up with, depending on whether if you want to make the game a little bit easier, you can take out the Tentacle Mythos cards, or if you want to make the game a little bit harder, you can take out the easy Mythos cards with the little magical blue things on the side. I love all of the events in Eldritch Horror. They make the game feel very thematic, very true to the Lovecraft theme, and it's always like tons of dread whenever those things are coming out. In Battlestar Galactica, at the end of each player's turn, they will be drawing a crisis card. Majority of these crisis cards make players vote by using their skill cards on specific events that come up. Will they spend tons of skill cards to keep from losing one water, or will those skill cards be better saved for a different event that's going to be more terrible later on? There are also crisis cards that add more Cylon ships to the board, which can end up getting rid of some of your civilian fleets or doing damage to Galactica, so it's always super interesting the timing of when these cards come up. Some of the crisis cards have the jump prep track icon on them, which is very important to winning the game as the humans. They're trying to jump away from the different Cylon fleets they're attacking, and the more they can jump, the closer they can get to getting to their destination and winning the game. I really enjoy the theme and randomness that events add to these different games. The best way to be prepared when events are going to come up is just to try to make sure you're not completely depleted in resources. You have skill cards, you have focus tokens in Eldritch Horror, and just hope for the best. I love event cards in games. I love how they add theme and story to a lot of these games, and especially cooperative games that use event cards to push the players towards the end of the game for winning or losing, and they're always something that you have to look out for, and you always hope that it's not going to be something too terrible. In Battlestar Galactica, when the events come up, it's always things that happened in the show and happened in the different scenarios and things like that. Oh, now there's a water shortage, or oh, now there's something going on with the president and they might lose their presidency, so it might switch to another person. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that can happen. And then with Eldritch Horror, the doom's always going up, and maybe this thing will happen or that thing will happen. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and the game actually allows you to use those to change the difficulty of the game. So tell us in the comments down below what you think your favorite game that uses random events is, and check us back next time where we're going to talk about a different kind of event, Crossroads. So we'll see you then. This has been Roll with the Punches.
Throat Punchies and Forrest and Brower's Game Corner back again for 3 reasons where I blah 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 blah. We're actually going to be doing yet another different list this time, and we're going to be talking about Kickstarter, something very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to give you 3 red flags that I personally have when I see a Kickstarter. I'm like, nope, not backing this one. So, little backstory, I've done over 120 Kickstarter reviews and previews for various different games and products. I have created like 3 or 4 of my own Kickstarters, both for a game and also to go to Gen Con and do my Gen Con Bonanza, and I've backed a bunch of projects on Kickstarter. I've worked firsthand with Kickstarter creators, both great ones and not so great ones, and I'm going to tell you the 3 things that worry me when I see a Kickstarter. First and foremost, if you're running a Kickstarter, your game should be on Board Game Geek. When I see a game that is not on Board Game Geek, that is currently on Kickstarter, or that is about to be on Kickstarter, I immediately write that game off. Now, you may say, that sounds a little bit snobby, like you're sticking your nose up in the air. Maybe some people just don't know about Board Game Geek. Well, here's my line of thinking, too. If you are going to Kickstarter, and you are going to be creating a hobby game, then you should know about Board Game Geek, and your game should be on Board Game Geek, because that is the mecca, that is the hub of all board games, hobby board games, on the internet, and by you not having it there, it shows me that you probably aren't prepared for this whole endeavor. Also, that your game is probably not going to be good, because I think maybe I've had about 40 games that I've done Kickstarter videos for that were not on Board Game Geek, and I think 2 were good. None were great, 2 were good and passable, and the rest were not so good. Reason number 2 why I steer clear of a Kickstarter project is if they've never backed any other projects. Now, this sounds kind of odd. Maybe they just haven't found a game they like. Maybe they just buy their games from stores or something like that. And that's not normally the case that I've ran into. Most of the time when this happens, it's because they don't quite understand how Kickstarter and the board game hobby in general works. And once again, I'll go back to the example that the majority of the time when companies have done this, their games have been, well, subpar to be nice. And this is just one of those things where I don't think I've ever actually seen a Kickstarter from a great company where they haven't backed anything else. Now, it's not necessary, so to speak, but it definitely is a big red flag to me. Reason number 3 why I don't back a Kickstarter and it sends up red flags is if there's no Kickstarter reviews or previews. Now, I know you might be saying, whoa, time out. You do Kickstarter reviews or previews, so clearly you're biased towards wanting to see more of those videos. And to that, I say, no, I'm not. Just as simple as that. Because, quite honestly, I will be brutally honest with you, as I am to my channel, that if you ever see a preview from me of a Kickstarter game, that generally means that I don't actually like the game that much. If you see a review, I will go over both the pros and the cons, because that's what a review is. Now, previews to me are generally useless unless I want to see how the game plays. But what I like to see on a video, and which will instantly make me interested in a game, is if someone doing the video talks about both the pros and the cons of the game, because I want to know what's bad about the game. I want to know who might not like the game, and a lot of games don't have that. And that, to me, is always a red flag. A, if you don't have a video, and B, if you don't have a video with any opinions about the game on it, aside from good opinions. So, those are 3 red flags that stick out to me when I see a Kickstarter page. But what are the red flags that stick out to you on Kickstarter pages? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, back to more throat punchy good.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jeanette the Metal Meeple, and this is the Miniature Breakdown. So in this episode, I want to do something a little different. I want to highlight one of my favorite games. It's a collectible miniature game. It's no longer in print. It's the World of Warcraft miniatures game. This is the core, the deluxe version of the core set, basically. It comes with a little bit of random miniatures and stuff. It was a collectible miniatures game, so you do buy booster boxes that have a couple of guys in it. I think it was 3, and you bust them open or whatever. Now you could probably get lots of this stuff from somebody who's selling it off, or you can get individual models from certain websites still. Each model would come with its own cards and things like that. But essentially it's a tactical game where you have a board. Let me show you the board here. The board has a printed side and a non-printed side for terrain. It comes with little terrain features that you can put down in the forest and things like that if you want, depending on the scenario that you're playing and if it calls for it. Every player is going to pick pretty much 3. You could play 3 on 3 or 5 on 5, 4 on 4, whatever. Most of the time it was 3 versus 3. So you would choose 3 miniatures. The opponent would choose 3 miniatures, and then you would face off in an arena fight, basically, for victory points. Each character is going to have a card here, which shows how many points they are to add into your team. You can see right here, these 3 equals about 20 points, though you can go as low as you want, which I think was 12. The thing is, every time you get a kill, you get 4 points, but you got to equal the amount of victory points you bring to the table. So for a lower point costing team at 12, they only have to get 3 kills, but it's a lot harder for them, whereas this team might walk over them a little bit, but they need to keep doing it over and over, and so maybe attrition will get to them. I don't know. It worked out really well. I'm really excited about it. Let me show you some of the models, though. The models are pretty big in comparison to 28 millimeter models here, like the War Machine models that I have next to it. So they're pretty nice. The paint jobs are adequate. I don't think they're very bad or anything. I don't think they're particularly great. But as far as tabletop, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, they did a nice job on it. So this game was a upper deck game, and so they have this thing called a U-base. The U-base will keep track of the time, so 1 through 10, because there's a time track over here on the right, and your model activates based on when their time comes up. So as you do stronger attacks, you might spend more time, and now you're not going to go until later in the round. There's also numbers on the top with a cutout hole that you can move around for the hit points. This was very cumbersome, so we usually just wrote dry erase markers on the cards. We put them in sleeves. Anyway, basically here's the board. Everybody's going to start on time 1, and you're going to take turns bringing your guys into play. They're going to come in on these little spawn points, which are graveyards. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft, it's very similar. Each player is going to take turns placing guys out. On the model's activation, they can move up to 2 spaces before or after their action. After they do that, they're allowed to perform an action. So just to show you some of the different things you can do, on their card, they usually have a main attack that tells you how much time it is, if it's ranged or melee, how many dice they're going to roll, and if it has a crit or not. On the dice, you have these cool little gray numbers. If it's a gray, it's a miss. It's a 1, 2, and 3 is a miss. Otherwise, it's a hit. On a crit, you roll a little skull, and that actually activates the crit ability. You essentially just roll dice. For every success that you have, remove the miss. The opponent's going to roll their defense value, which is down here, and remove some dice, and then they're going to take the net damage. And that's pretty much the game. And you play into a certain amount of victory points. It's just really fun. I kind of wish that it didn't go away, but I still got it all, so why not? Anyway, feel free to email me at timjanut@gmail.com. Maybe I'll do a full review of this on the Dice Tower. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hey again everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Past, the Present and the Future, and this time it's the present, and the game that I've chosen is Spectre Ops. Spectre Ops is a brilliant 2 to 5 player deduction game released by Plaid Hat Games. The game's main mechanic is hidden movement, so fans of Letters of Whitechapel will really enjoy this game. The game is a 1 versus all game where one player will play the agent breaking into the Raxon facility, and the other players will play the hunters trying to track the agent down. While trying to track the agent down, they'll heavily be relying on line of sight, so moving into a location that can hopefully see in a couple of directions, and they can ask if they can see the agent. Agent escapes, they win. Agent dies, the hunters win. Honestly, I think the reason that I like Spectre Ops so much is just that it plays so well with 3, with 4, and particularly, in my opinion, it plays great as a 2-player game. I really, really enjoy it. The game itself, being a deduction game, instantly makes it a favourite of mine, and the minis are cool, but the map, in my opinion, is cooler, and I can't wait for the expansion to come out at some point next year. Guys, that's been another episode, and I can't wait to come back next time and show you the future.
Welcome to Miniature World, and this is my grandson, Hudson. Are you Hudson? No, I guess not. This week on Miniature World, while he's down from Connecticut, we're going to be doing a kind of a quick segment, but we're going to be looking at the miniatures for Mansion of Madness 1st edition and 2nd edition, and comparing them and going over some of the miniatures, and with some of the heroes and stuff, investigators. We're going to see which ones are better than the other ones, and comparing a few. So why don't we head down to the table and take a look at that? Would you like that? Say yes. Yeah, okay. Let's go take a look. So here we are down at the table taking a look at these. The ones that are not painted are from the original set, and these are from the newer set. And you may not be able to tell a difference here, but there is an extreme difference here. And I'm going to try to show you as much as I can. This plastic here from the original set is a little flimsier. The poses and everything are the same, but it seemed like this mold is a lot better because on these other ones, they don't carry the detail as much as these do. And I actually like the new set a lot better. But it's always great to have these in here, and you can have them as extras. The real difference comes in some of the from the first set. You would have these, I guess they're called crazies or followers or whatever, and you could see that there is definitely a size difference, a big size difference. So as long as you don't mind that, combining the two sets isn't a big deal. The sculpts on the first set were very, they're not as good as the new set. The new set has a lot of neat stuff, and it seems like their molding has gotten a lot better. You got to remember there is a big difference in between the years between the first set and the second set here. But all in all, this just fits together very nicely. The other thing is that the heroes come on different bases, and if you can get by that, you can also paint the bases so they all match up, so all the heroes. And of course, as you know, the app combines everything together. The thing I do like about the first series, and we'll take a look at that next time, is the monsters. Now, the thing I would say to you, if you want better sculpts, and with the 2 expansions coming out in a couple of weeks, you may want to get the better sculpts because it looks like they did a better molding. So if you're interested in painting them and so forth and so on, this might be the way to go instead of going with your old models. If you just don't care and you just care about the game, hey, stick with the old stuff. You don't have to get the new expansions. I believe that they may have a couple tiles, and if that makes a big difference to you, but everything I believe will convert over, and I believe that you'll get better models in the newer sculpts. So hey, let's go up top and get on out of here, and next time we come, I'll show you these all painted, and we'll take a look at all the monsters and the expansions as well. Well, how was that? That was pretty good. No? Okay. Well, that's this week's Miniature World. Why don't you say goodbye to everybody? Say bye. Bye. I'm going back to Connecticut because I had enough with hanging with my grandfather. And I think you guys had enough of hanging with me. So we'll see you next time on Miniature World.
So that is episode 7 of Throw Punch Lunch. I want to thank every single one of my contributors, even the ones that were not able to send in segments. I know you're at work in other areas of your life, so don't sweat it. Just get another segment in for next one, okay? So anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed everything that we put together for you this week. I hope that you'll come back in 2 weeks for episode 8 of Throat Punch Lunch. Wow. Seems like we've done more than 8, but that is it. So, hey, I hope you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying the ride. Let's keep it going. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.